Code Chicago.
Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. And disclaimer on that subject is that while we talk about business, we love to profile businesses that are interesting, that are unique. We love to talk with people that are making a difference. Today, I actually, just hours ago, hustled up the Hancock. I ran up 94 flights of stairs. And call me crazy, but it was an incredible, inspirational experience. Not my experience, but really watching the other people around me and hearing them talk. You have a lot of time to listen to people's stories, and met some interesting, fascinating people, all people that raised thousands of dollars for a great organization. And those are exactly the people that we like to talk to. And that's why it's so appropriate that I'm able to bring on Marc Ayers, the Illinois State Director for the Humane Society. Marc, welcome to the program, and thanks for all that you do.
Hey, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Absolutely. So Humane Society of the United States does a lot of work. You guys, just from browsing the website, which of course we'll share with our listeners, there's a lot of different advocacy that you're involved in. I mean, most people probably when they think of the Humane Society, they're thinking puppies and kittens that they love to stop by and play with and support and visit. But you guys are doing so much more, and thought it was very appropriate to bring you on to talk a little bit about it. So, Marc, if you were to summarize the Humane Society, how would you do that?
That's a good question. I think I'd summarize it by saying that we're the nation's largest and we're the most effective animal protection organization that's out there in the United States and around the world. We and our affiliates are providing hands-on care and services to more than 100,000 animals each year. And I'd say we're also driving transformational change in the United States and around the world by combating large-scale cruelties, such as puppy mills, animal fighting, factory farming, seal slaughter, horse cruelty, captive hunts, and even the wildlife trade. So we're doing a little bit of everything across the board here.
Wow, that's quite the mission and quite the focus. And again, I can't emphasize it enough. Even for me, and I have to say that I'm pretty involved and pretty knowledgeable, but I didn't know about half of those things. So, Marc, I know you spend the bulk of your time in Springfield and focused on Illinois state issues. Tell us a little bit about some of the things. What's a day in the life of Marc Ayers like? What are some of the things that you're working on currently?
It changes day to day, so no day is really the same. I would spend most of my time January through I'd say May or June in the spring legislative session. I spend it at the Capitol primarily, passing animal-friendly legislation, supporting animal-friendly legislation, but also serving as a counter in case there was bad animal welfare legislation coming up through other groups that we have to stop or try and defeat. And so that's where I spend most of my time. We had a lot of victories last year at the Capitol. We had probably one of the best legislative sessions to date last year.
Marc, I have to interrupt you. That is something that most people would not be able to say. That's something that here in Illinois, everybody's talking about the stalemate and how nothing is getting done. What do you attribute that to, that the Humane Society, and more important than your organization is your mission, what causes that success and that sense of, I guess you call it bipartisanship or nonpartisanship?
Yeah, I think one of it is our advocates. I think advocates now are better informed, and we've been doing a good job in informing advocates on some of the issues that need to be addressed at the Capitol. And then those advocates contact their legislators, and if they don't know who they are, we help them with that. We can tell them who their senator and their rep is. And then it all starts from there. But I think even the legislators have been phenomenal in addressing animal welfare legislation at the Capitol. And it literally takes both parties to do this. We can't do this with just the Democrats. We can't do this with just the Republicans. We work with both parties here. And most of our bills that we had last year, they either passed unanimously in one chamber or the other, or they passed with widespread bipartisan support. And one of those victories, for example, was our elephant bill. And this was Senate Bill 1342 that Senator Linda Holmes had, and it would prohibit elephants in circuses and traveling shows. And we worked with some major zoos, the Chicago Zoological Society.
And if I recall, actress Jane Lynch, too.
That's right. Jane Lynch helped out. She was lobbying the governor to get him to sign the bill when it got to his desk, and it passed the Senate unanimously, which is just amazing. I still get goosebumps talking about it. And it passed the House 91-14, had Republicans and Democrats as sponsors and co-sponsors. But probably was one of the biggest bills that we passed last year, and that took effect January 1st of this year.
Okay, that's amazing, and congratulations on that. So most of our listeners are in the Chicagoland area, and again, while people certainly follow legislation, they are very focused on what's going on in their backyard, and there was certainly a lot of news regarding a law in the city of Chicago prohibiting sale of puppy mill dogs, and I know recently that went up to the federal appellate court. And Mark, if you don't mind sharing a bit of an update on where things stand with that, I believe the court upheld that law, which certainly is something that I think almost everybody in Chicago hopefully was cheerleading you on for. So tell us what's going on with that.
Yeah, that law was upheld, and so the couple pet stores actually sued the city, and they took that to court. And it went all the way to the Seventh Circuit of Appeals, and that was actually upheld. We had a good feeling that it would be upheld, and it was. And so it's a law of the land there in Chicago. Cook County actually has a similar law as well. There's 250 local ordinances like that throughout the country that prohibit the sale of dogs, cats, and even sometimes rabbits in pet stores unless they come from shelters, rescues, or your local animal control. And now we add that to the entire state of California, who just recently became the first state in the nation to do that as a whole state. The 250 local ordinances and the whole state of California is doing that. You add that to Chicago, Cook County. There's even some cities like Waukegan, Warrensville in Illinois have a pet store ban. And interestingly enough, there's another bill being circulated right now in Springfield. It's Senate Bill 2280, and that's a bill primarily put forward by Senator Conley, but it's a product of Will and DuPage counties. And so it'll prohibit dogs and cats from being sold in Will and DuPage unless they come from shelters, rescues, or animal control. So this is really an issue that's taken off across the country, but it's taken off here in the state of Illinois as well.
Absolutely. So lots of great legislation being passed and being enforced. Again, and you and your team are working really, really hard. So in a moment or two, we're going to make sure that folks know how else they could get involved. But I know that on the website, you talk about encouraging how individuals can make an impact beyond advocacy on specific legislation. Is everybody loves puppies. Folks can encourage their local pet stores to become puppy friendly. And of course, when people are thinking about bringing a furry little friend home, they could find a puppy friendly pet store near them. So let's talk briefly about that. Tell us a little bit about some of the talking points that you would use.
Well, I think it's meaningful because when you're adopting an animal, you're literally saving its life. And when you adopt an animal, you're not only saving that animal's life, but you're opening up space for another animal that's in need. And we took that to heart here in the state of Illinois, specifically, again, with another bill. It was symbolic. It was a House Bill 812 that Representative Jimenez put forward, but it was a state designation that designated shelter pets as the official state pet of Illinois. And so these are dogs and also cats. So any dog or a cat that comes from a rescue or a shelter is kind of the official state pet of Illinois. And I think that sends a strong signal that we take this stuff very seriously here. You go to any of your local shelters or rescues or wherever you are in the state or around the country, you're going to find that they're full of animals that need to be adopted.
Absolutely. And
that's what we really try to strive for. And millions of animals are put down, euthanized each year
because they can't find a forever home.
Mark,
so
I'm running out of time.
I want to make sure our listeners know where they can learn more. Where can they find out more about ways that they can get involved and learn more about the work of the Humane Society?
Everything is up on our website. It's very clear. It's humanesociety.org.
humanesociety.org. Marc Ayers, Illinois State Director for the Humane Society of the United States. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be sure to have you back on to follow your progress on this important legislation. Chicago will be right back on Get Down to Business. Don't touch that dial.
She ran out.